everybody, this is Michael, or Micaityl may call me, and today, well, I'm gonna be talking about 5 light novels, and recommend them to you all. So for the first light novel I'm gonna be talking about in this video, it has to be Ryogo Narita's Durarara. I'm gonna be honest here, I really like Durarara. Like, it was one of the first animes that I've ever watched, and I don't know, it's like a guilty pleasure anime. Like, I know that, the plot can be kind of, I'm trying to find the nice way of saying this, but the plot can be kind of, you know, silly at points. Like, I'm gonna be honest here, Durarara's plot kind of is silly, but that's what makes it so charming to me. And, this first volume is actually one of the least silliest storylines in the entirety of the Durarara franchise. The first volume of the light novel is relatively normal compared to the rest of the series. And, you do follow, Mikado Ryugame, which he's kind of boring, though there are some high moments towards the end of this light novel with Mikado, but I'm not gonna say too much about that. I'm just gonna say this now. Mikado is kind of mid, but he just is getting introduced to the world of Ikebukuro from, well, this version of it made by Ryogo Narita. And I have to say, just the sense of mystery of the urban legends of the town coming to life in front of Mikado, I just have to say, reading his thoughts from this light novel, it's really interesting just to, you know, see how he views the town from, you know, his first impression, because in the manga and anime, for which, yes, Durarara does have a manga, for which I also do recommend, but I'm talking about the light novel right now. But from the light novel, you get a little bit more of, you know, what's going on in Mikado's head as he's seeing everything in Ikebukuro and what he thinks of it all, for which you don't really get that in the manga or anime. Now, would I recommend reading the light novel before the manga and anime? I would say no. Because I'm gonna be honest here, this is kind of more of a treat to those who have read the manga and watched the anime. Like, this is just a treat afterwards, in my opinion. Even though this is what came out first, I have to say, if you're really wanting to get into Durarara, I would highly recommend watching the anime and manga first so that you can get a sense into the world of Durarara, and then you go into the light novel just to get the details from, you know, just the small details that the anime and manga kind of, you know, didn't explore upon. If you really want to get into Durarara, I would not recommend trying out the light novel first, but I'm gonna say this now, the light novel is not a bad start. Like, it's not a bad start, but it's not the best start. So this next light novel I'm gonna be talking about is probably a title that a lot of you recognize. Bakemonogatari, the beginning of Nichio Isshin's Monogatari's tale. The story of Kiyomi Araragi and his harem of girls who are being affected by aberrations. And yes, I'm calling all the girls around Kiyomi his harem because, well, they're definitely written in a way like a harem would be written. But yes, Monogatari, I have to say, it's a really interesting story. Like, I'm about 5 books into the first season. Like, I'm currently reading the second half of Nisei Monogatari, but Bakemonogatari, I'm gonna say this now, is a great introduction into the world of aberrations. Although the first 2 tales in the Bakemonogatari series, I'm gonna be honest here, the first 2 tales, Hitagi Crab and Maui Snail, are kind of boring. I'm gonna be fully honest here, compared to, you know, the later half of the first season. But I have to say, it does still, you know, give an interesting read. Like, it does introduce the world of Kiyomi Araragi and, well, the whole complex system of aberrations. Like, I have to say, I think every part with the aberrations in these first volumes are probably the best written parts, because, everything else, like, Kiyomi's interactions with people, they're kind of boring and meh when you first get, you know, to them, for which, later on, it's actually the interactions he has with the other characters is what, you know, makes Monogatari worth it. But at the beginning, you're really interested in the aberrations. And I have to say, the aberrations were very interesting in this first volume. The snail and the crab. I definitely recommend trying out Bakemonogatari. And at first, if you're really interested in aberrations, definitely check it out for the aberrations. If you're really interested in the, you know, comedic and slice-of-life elements of the series, well, it does take some time for those to develop, because Kiyomi is just getting to know Shinjokahara, I have never said her name out loud, I'm really sorry that I butchered that, Shinjokahara, and Hachikuchi. It's an interesting read, though it does get very boring at points since, you know, the characters are getting to know each other and they're developing their relationships with each other. So, yes, in regards to character development, it is slow, but it's definitely worth it because after you see the slow development, when you get to Bakemonogatari, you're going to be glad that you had this slow build-up to, you know, the way the characters interact with each other after Bakemonogatari. So, definitely read Bakemonogatari if you're interested in apparitions, and if you're interested in the, you know, more comedic sides of Bakemonogatari, it will take some time, but it will be worth it. Alright, so now let's talk about the third light novel that I'm going to be talking about in this video, which is No Game, No Life. Now, up until 3 months ago, I actually didn't know No Game, No Life existed. I know, one of the most infamous anime of the 2010s, I didn't know existed until 3 months before when I bought the first light novel volume. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm really sorry for not knowing what this is. And as soon as I read the first volume of the light novel, I wanted to kick myself so hard in the head because I didn't know this existed. This is a story where a lot of the, you know, fighting actually comes through the mind because they play games to, you know, challenge each other. Each challenge in the series, and whenever a character wants something, instead of, you know, doing a fight for it, they fight using their minds in a game. And I have to say, that is a really interesting, you know, subject. Though, of course, there does come the downside of the main characters. Okay, I love Shiro and Sora. I'm gonna say that now. I like them. But I kind of wanted to see this concept with a character that is not the best at video games. Or, you know, games in general. Because Shiro and Sora, they're really good at games. So definitely, you know, we're gonna get a story about geniuses. But I kind of wanted the story about someone who's not that good at games, and they're slowly improving as they're continuing to play games in this world. Like, I kind of want to see that sort of, you know, story rather than, well, two geniuses be isekai'd into a world that's perfectly made for them. Though, of course, I still like No Game, No Life, don't get me wrong, but of course, I do kind of want to see this concept used for someone who's not as good at games. And, well, for that story to also have a little bit less incest. Alright, so for the next light novel I'm going to be talking about in this video, the fourth light novel I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be honest here, I didn't actually think the story was real until it got to my house. Like, I read the description, I read a little bit about it online, but I thought it was just a joke. I thought this wasn't real. But no, it's real. It's real. And I'm gonna read the back of the book, the description of what the story is about, before I reveal what it is, just so that you will feel the same feelings that I did as, you know, I was learning about the existence of this light novel. High above the blood and mud-soaked trenches, a young girl pits herself against army mages in high-stakes aerial duels with bullets, spells, and bayonets. Her name is Tanya and she is the Devil of the Rhine, one of the greatest soldiers the Empire has ever seen. But inside her mind lives a ruthless, calculating ex-salary man who enjoyed a peaceful life in Japan until he woke up in a war-torn world. Reborn as a destitute orphan girl with nothing to her name but memories of a previous life, Tanya will do whatever it takes to survive, even if she can find it only behind the barrel of a gun. Even after I put it onto my car on My Stuff and pressed the order button, I didn't think that was real. As it was being delivered to me, I thought the box was going to be empty. And then, a week later, it came. I saw this cover right before me and read aloud, The Saga of Tanya the Evil, or Yojo Senki. This is just a story that you would not believe exists until you read it. Though of course, I will give a heads up, this story does have a lot of, you know, detailed military terms and tactics that I don't really, you know, understand too much even after I looked them up on Google. So if you want to, you know, to get into the Tanya the Evil universe, I would also recommend trying out the manga. If you don't want to read the light novel, I highly recommend the manga. Or if you really want to read the light novel, I would still recommend reading the manga first, because if you just want to get into the story of Tanya the Evil, the manga does it quite well. Like, the manga is a really faithful adaptation, and it adds more to the story of the light novel. So, yeah, if you want to get into the saga of Tanya the Evil, I definitely, recommend trying out the manga. Like, you could even read the manga first, and you don't need to read the light novel if you read the manga, because the manga explains everything perfectly. But if you want to get more technical with the story and get a little bit into the mind of Tanya, definitely read the light novel, because you get deep into the mind of Tanya. To be fully honest here, I saved probably one of the most classic light novels for last. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. Unlike the other light novels that I talked about in this video, the first volume of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, I'm gonna be honest here, really bored me. Like, yes, Bakemonogatari did bore me at points with the slice of life parts, and Micaityl is a very bland character from what I read in the Durarara light novel, but I hate saying this because I really like the Haruhi series, but if you watch the anime and then went into the light novel, you're definitely going to be really bored. I'm going to be fully honest here, if you did watch the anime, you probably don't need to read the book. Though of course, if you, want to see more insight into the thoughts of Kyon, definitely check out, the light novel, because basically the light novel is told from Kyon's point of view, so you do get to hear more of his thoughts. Though the anime does a great job into, adapting Kyon's characters and his thoughts about the things around him. Like, the anime does a really good job of adapting that. So really, you don't need to buy the first volume of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, because it's kind of a boring book if you watch the anime before reading the first volume of the light novel. But once you get to the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya, the book is equivalent to the movie in how great it is. I highly recommend you read the disappearance book. Like, there's a re-release going on right now, so definitely pick up a volume. I gotta pull up the book real quick. Definitely get a volume of this re-release, because, oh my god, I can't believe it, but the disappearance book really shows the jumbo quality from, the first 3 volumes. You can definitely skip out on the first 3 volumes and just start from volume 4 and beyond.
Okay.